Okay, we're back again. I have absolutely nothing done on the 41. I went to use the grinder that my co-host, who hasn't been here for the past 2 days, got me, but unfortunately the plug doesn't match, and I can't just switch it out because, well, it doesn't belong to him, it belongs to his job. So I went out today, bought a new grinder, started doing some work on the car, nothing really to show. So I decided to make this episode about where to get these project cars. They're everywhere. I mean, I just got a almost complete parts car for this for pennies, basically. I paid $400 for almost a complete car. The guy had it, I saw it, tracked him down. That took a couple weeks to track him down. And basically that project car you heard me talk about in previous episodes, the 41 DeSoto, all he wanted was the front clip off the frame for another project he's working, because he builds suspensions and frames, chassis, whatever, for hot rods. The 41 DeSoto's got a newer, I believe he said 86 Camaro front clip on it. So I got that whole car, all the parts, all the body parts, the trim, everything, for $400 because he had no need for it. Those cars, they're out there. They're in barns, garages, sitting out in fields, out in the woods. All it takes is going tracking these people down and asking them how much they want for them. The worst they can say is it's not for sale or no thank you. Other than that, these cars are just sitting there rotting. These people don't have no use for them. You know? Worst case scenario, they say make an offer. Worst they can say is no to that offer. But they're out there. I mean, that DeSoto, body-wise, is in better condition than this 41. The only reason I'm restoring this 41 is I've been chasing it for 15 years. Technically, really, if you want to look at it, I kind of overpaid for this Dodge. But, you know, in retrospect, I had to have this car. Period. That's just how it is. And, you know, everyone's like, it cost a ton to restore them. Yeah, when you look at it, by the time I'm done, you're looking at probably about 20 to 25 grand to restore it if I start dumping tons of money into it. But I'm not doing that. I'm looking on Craigslist, Uncle Henry's for parts. You know, if I don't want to put a Chevy engine in it, it's going to run me, you know, between $700 and $1,200 for a decent Mopar engine. But they're out there. I can put a Corvette front end on this. I was looking at Uncle Henry's. If I had the money, I think it was $300 for complete Corvette front suspension for this, because the guy bought it and it wasn't going to work for his application. I have seen other people use Corvette front suspensions on these, and they work bolt up pretty nicely with minor, you know, modification. This engine that came with this car had a front motor mount, so it's just the front motor mounts on the front of the block, and then what bolts it to the transmission. So you can, you know, with minor adjustment, I mean, the power steering's in, or the power steering. I keep saying power steering. This car doesn't have power steering, but the manual steering box is right in the way where a side motor mount would go. So you got to custom make one for the driver's side, but it's doable. It's I mean, most people are putting, you know, S10 rear ends under these that aren't even posies. But these cars are out there. I mean, they're just sitting there because, you know, they're parked out back and forgotten, or left in the woods and forgotten. I mean, back, you know, my early 20s, I actually ran across a Dodge, it was a 5-window suicide coupe. That was, you know, I want to say like a 32, 33 maybe. I mean, the whole back half of it was missing, but for the most part, I mean, it was there. It could have been restored. You know, I kind of walked away from the project, and I took it, acid cleaned it, walked away from the project, and ended up, it got sold to somebody else, and unfortunately now it's sitting up in the woods again, rotting the rest of the way, because he lost his property, and, you know, nobody could see it for what it was. I mean, there were some good parts on there. It was restorable, but, you know, ended up losing it. But, you know, everyone thinks that these cars are too expensive to buy. You know, I mean, I just saw a 4-door DeSoto for sale for $1,000. Whole car. It was running. You know, total, not even a clunker. You know, a barn find. Somebody found it. You know, shop your swap meets. Go to these car shows. You know, start talking to some of these older guys that have cars, because a lot of times they have cars or parts for cars. And you know, stay away from eBay. eBay, what happens is people buy stuff, they think it's worth a lot more than it actually is, and they don't want to accept anything but top dollar for this. Every now and again you get lucky, but they kill you on the shipping. But, I mean, seriously, watch people's yards, watch Uncle Henry's, watch Craigslist. These cars are everywhere. You know, take your time with these projects too. You know, everyone's mad or they lose interest because it's not progressing as fast as they would like. Well, these projects don't. Pick one thing a week to get done. If you don't get it done, okay, try to get it done next week. Expect that things are going to bust. You know, I mean, my garage, I had to basically rewire because I had wired it wrong. That was my fault. I got in haste. It shouldn't have been working in the first place, but it did, until it finally tripped the breaker, and it took me a couple days to figure out what was going on. But I took my time, I fixed it. Now all my garage is working the way it's supposed to work. It's not going to trip the breaker anymore, and I'm back to trying to figure out what to get done on the car. I'm kind of stuck right now. I was going to show you guys all the parts from the DeSoto, but truth be known, the DeSoto is actually right now buried in a snowbank. But I do got the bill of sale, so I do have that. Just waiting for the snow to melt enough so I can start getting parts out of it and off it. Hopefully in the spring it'll be in the yard, and that'll make it a lot easier. Like I said, it's got a solid one-piece hood that we're going to be using. But these cars, they're everywhere. Just go ask. Save them, because they're rusting. And there is a point of no return for these cars. You know, you can put them on different frames. People put them on Corvette frames. People put them on S10 frames. You know, there's a ton of options for these cars. You know, so track them down, find them. You can get them dirt cheap. I know. I got a buddy last week. He stopped in and asked about a 39 Terraplane that he had found. I'm not sure it was a 39, but he said it's a 39 Terraplane, so I'm going to take him at his word on this. And he stopped in and asked the guy, you know, how much you got to have for this car? And the guy's like, you know, $100 really. And it was a solid car. And it wasn't a piece of junk. Yeah, sometimes you find them that they need new floors. Well, they remake floors for these. It's not hard to make them from scratch either. So it doesn't cost a lot to get these cars. Check junkyards. You know, there's antique car junkyards everywhere. It's funny. My first car, 72 Chevelle. Me and my dad were going to take a look at it, and I was like, you know, talking to him, and he's like, yeah, you know, who knows? Maybe we'll find a couple antique car junkyards. Like, they don't exist anymore. As we pull in, you know, it looks like a normal house. I meet the guy. His name was Rainey Gerard. And he goes, yeah, just come around back. It's up behind the barn. And we drive around the back of this man's barn, and just like out of the woods, there are antique cars piled everywhere. Matter of fact, that's where my father got the car he's using now to make a depot hack. You know, it bought from the same guy. I ended up not being able to finish that Chevelle, but there are antique car junkyards everywhere. I've run into a couple up north near Bethel. Can't really tell you where they are, but like I said, guys, these cars are everywhere. Real quick before I lose you, the metal thing going into the molasses slurry, that's progressing. Hopefully next week we'll have some results to show you. The front pipe of the Harley, that's done. I'm going to be redoing the clutch myself. Due to lack of funds, I can't really afford to have somebody else look at it, so I'm going to take it apart, try to figure out what we did wrong, why it's not working. So sorry if it seems like I'm a little long-winded this week, but there's just a lot that didn't get done, a lot I had to say. With that, you know, like, subscribe, follow us on Facebook at Angel Customs, and you know, send us pictures if you want to the Angel Customs on Facebook. of your rides. Comment below this if you've got questions or something you want to say about a ride you're working on. We'd love to hear it. So with that, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next week.